You're listening to Stimulus Tech Talk, a conversation-based podcast created by Stimulus Technologies that covers a range of topics related to business and technology.
Welcome to Stimulus Tech Talk. I'm Sherry Lip, the marketing manager here at Stimulus Technologies, and I am here as usual with Stimulus Technology CEO Nathan Whitaker. And today we are going to be talking about what we learned in technology in 2025. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks, Sherry, as always, and welcome everybody.
And this is part two. We started last one talking about getting ready for 2026, as hard as that is to believe. We are going to be talking about a little bit about what we learned in 2025 and how we can apply that to the future. So what do you think, how do you think clients, we helped our clients approach IT in 2025 that might have been different than years past?
I think the big push at the end of 24 and into the beginning of 25 is understanding how we can use artificial intelligence in the business and keep the business safe while using artificial intelligence. As with any new technology, it brings a lot of risks along with it too. And so a lot of our discussion has been around improving cybersecurity and ensuring that your IT infrastructure and also the cybersecurity behind it is ready for the next generation of AI and what's happening with AI internally, but also hackers and predators against your company using AI technology to infiltrate. So a lot of the discussion has been around AI, but it really goes back to core fundamentals of IT and cybersecurity to become prepared for using AI efficiently inside the organization and also protecting the organization from leaks of data, misuse of AI, potential hackers getting into the systems because of AI. There's just a lot of things that we have to do to protect organizations to ensure that they're safe from these new threats inside and outside the organization.
And did you find businesses are wanting to learn about AI, or are we having to tell businesses that they need to prepare?
Oh, it's a variety. We certainly had a number of companies that had employees that were jumping in and using it on their own. We had companies that fully embraced it. We did a whole series of webinars, seminars, and our masterclass on AI technologies end of last year and into the first of this year. We had a number of companies that said, I want every one of my employees to have Copilot licenses or ChatGPT licenses, and jumped in with both feet in AI technologies. And then we had other companies that were much more skeptical of it. The issue with the companies that are skeptical of it is they might have employees that are using it and using free versions and maybe potentially putting their data at risk. And so that was kind of the we see a wide range of adoptions among companies, from sticking their head in the sand and saying don't want to participate in it to fully embracing this cutting edge technology.
And yeah, we'll probably get a little bit more into how we help towards the end of this episode. But why do you think it's important to reflect on our technology at the end of the year and start making decisions early in the year?
Reflecting on technology and where you're at, the year end is a great time for business planning. And so, I think all of us business owners have to look at, what we do as a company and forecast, in the next 3 months, the next year, the next 5 years, what the company will look like in the future. And obviously our lens can be a little clearer when we're talking 3 months. When you start getting out into 5 years, the world shifts dramatically. Not just from a technology perspective, but also politically, financially, there's a lot of changes that happen. But we got to plan for different things. And so right now, I think as we talked in the last podcast, is looking at what technologies you have inside your organization, see if they are competitive against your competitors out there, other providers in your space. And also look at all the tools that you're using and see if there's new tools that can really help your business accelerate dramatically. there's been a number of huge shifts inside business over the last, forever from a technology perspective, the last 100 years. But we saw, 10 years ago, thinking about cloud computing, that's really when it accelerated and modernized businesses was, in the mid 2010s. And now we're seeing AI being that next generation of change. So, um, 20, 25 years ago, we were just getting businesses on the email and communicating over the internet, getting websites, for businesses, e-commerce, all that. And 10 years later, now we're moving fully to the cloud. And now we're moving to automation and AI. So it seems like about every 10 years, we have this giant shift, and we're in the middle of it right now. So businesses need a plan for what that's going to look like, how we're going to do business, and what business opportunities does this new change create, whether you're a CPA, an attorney, a dentist, a medical practitioner, a car dealership, whatever you are. AI is going to affect you in some way, and that automation is going to really improve your business or potentially set you behind. So this is the time to really make those decisions on how to move your business forward.
And do you think that AI is a big part of the smallest businesses?
Absolutely. As we've seen, especially with cloud computing, for example, uh, it really allowed small companies to do work the same that enterprises only were able to prior. And so, this growth in the gig economy, the growth in being able to use contractors, doing work wherever, whenever, especially that shifted during COVID. That was brought about by cloud computing. And now with AI and automation, you can, as a small business, effectively multiply the work that you're doing beyond, the number of people that you have working for you. So it really is a force multiplier, and it can really help small businesses uh, have the advantage over much larger companies that aren't adopting these type of technologies. So, think of it as a force multiplier. If you have 5 employees, you could do the work of 15 or 20 employees if you're using AI correctly. And it's, just such a productivity gain for your organization if you fully embrace it.
And what kinds of things have you seen businesses do to train their employees in this?
Do a pitch for our masterclass. Stimulus Technologies holds a masterclass that trains employees on the secure use of AI technologies inside the organization. So that's one way. But looking at a variety of different courses out there, everywhere, everything from prompt design to business process. I took a course last year from MIT on designing business processes around AI, and basically thinking at a high level from an executive standpoint how we can implement AI. So from all areas of your organization, there's training available. Now, the interesting thing about it is because generative AI is so new, this is changing rapidly. Now, maybe not for me as an executive of the company, thinking high level what AI technologies are out there and what we should do, but really the implementation and use of AI is changing quickly. We're also seeing a huge shift in software development, and individuals that with very limited software development skills being able to write tools that can work in their business. So that might be another area that you might want some of your staff to get trained on, is how to use some of these new software development tools that AI offers, and become up to speed on them. So there's plenty of classes. Look at your local community college, maybe online courses. Mine, like I said, was through MIT. Some of these universities are offering these courses. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity out there to get training. You can also, again, look at your IT vendor and some of your other vendors to see what things that they're offering. Like we're offering this masterclass. But there's definitely a lot of training available out there for all ranges of employees.
And you talk about productivity. We can maybe do the job of what took 15 to 20 employees. So what can employees do to stay, on the cutting edge so they're not getting, eliminated?
Yeah, that's been the scare, right? It's, you don't want your job to be eliminated by AI, but I mean, we've been doing this for hundreds of years now of automating away portions of companies, when you walk into your building, is there an elevator operator there anymore, that's running the elevator for you? No, that job has been automated away. The person that might have been the elevator operator hopefully is doing another job that's doing good work for the economy. So as employees, I think we have to level up and understand where how this technology works. Certainly, being an ostrich and sticking your head in the sand about it is not going to help or benefit you. There's just been areas of it though that's kind of surprising that it's affected. My degree's in computer science, and it's just ironic that this computer technology, this automation, has really affected software development more dramatically, I think, than any other area of business because software development could be mostly automated, at least the coding part of it. And so it's requiring people that were trained in just pure writing code to do something much more with their career than that. Learning business processes, learning project management, learning people skills. And we have to adapt to these changes as individuals to be able to survive in what the economy is going to look like in 10 years. There's certainly a lot of positions that aren't going to be replaced. But I can see, if you look at what Tesla's talking about with robotics and AI and robotics, there's probably manual labor that's going to go away too. So we have to upskill as we have had to do as a society for hundreds of years because the things are changing and the change is accelerating around us.
And we do you mentioned our master class, which we do for companies. How do you think that companies training on this together is a benefit over trying every employee trying to enroll in their own program?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and that's something that we have to look at across the organization. If the organization is adopting these technologies as a global part of the organization, it will be much better than if we're siloed. So, that example I used of the company that bought a license for every one of their employees that needed it, uh, they're going to accelerate their use of AI across the organization. I think it also asks a lot of questions about where's our data? Can we keep our data secure? Making sure that that we're using it effectively across the organization. Because the one thing that we have to concern ourselves is the security of the data and making sure that it's not being exfiltrated outside the organization by individual employees that are using maybe non-licensed AI tools. So I think it's important that that collaboratively we're learning these tools, and then when you collaborate, people are going to learn, hey, I did this and this worked well for me, and they can teach other people how to use it effectively too. And so it just accelerates the use of it as a group.
And what have we learned as a company from teaching this, and where do we want to see it going?
I think we can't be technology folk, just particular on one technology. Uh, we started with the Copilot masterclass, but we certainly expanded it to talk about different technologies, whether that's ChatGPT or some of the other tools that are out there. And we're going to have a webinar coming up on looking at a bunch of different tools. So I don't think we could be focused, and this is what we learned on one particular tool or one particular technology, because there's some of these generative AI systems are better than others at different tasks, and they're changing constantly. So their ChatGPT 5 comes out, and then Grok comes out with their new version, and then suddenly there's a new programming tool. There's these things that are constantly evolving, and you got to look at the tool that's best for what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned is um, one, it doesn't work perfectly all the time, but it is getting better. And two, you can't use a hammer for everything. You have to use the appropriate tool for what you want to work on.
I was watching a video where somebody was like, "This AI is not perfect today, but tomorrow it'll be better, and the day after that it'll be even better." Is that how fast it's moving?
It really is. It's pretty incredible. So, um, there's I was looking back at a presentation I did 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out, 2023, and I was looking at some of the images that I used to generate, and they were really awful. Now, now the news articles over the last couple of days have been around this AI actress that has been, going, doing these rounds and interviews and, the videos, and it's lifelike, and listening to this AI actress talk, there's, for lack of a better term, she's talking as if she was a sentient being, a sentient person, and so um, it's very interesting how it's changed and how they're matching the visuals with the communication, and that's just evolving so fast. So yeah, almost every day it's changing dramatically, and um, a lot of this we're not involved with as stimulus. I mean, we're not producing films. It's just interesting to look at how this is changing and what it means. Uh, so it, for the technology industry, certainly security is a big part of it. Something you need to be worried about inside your organization is, how to keep up, but also how to keep your system secure based around, these massive changes that are going on.
Well, I mean, at least right now, we're probably not hiring an AI actress, but when it comes to some AI support,
Are
do you
we?
find
We can replace ourselves and just have this done,
they just
But
have all this? Well, it is kind of amazing. I saw a picture, and this AI actress was making a very emotional looking face because that's the one thing we've always been like, they can't replace that, but
mhm.
everything that we say it can't do, it seems to kind of
Yeah,
to
just
do. So
we
when
just
it comes,
don't say it can't because it
no.
will.
When it comes to customer support, though, we might be hiring some virtual voices at the very least, if not video. So, how do you think that will play a factor as we start? Is that something businesses should be thinking about?
I think so. We're experimenting around with it at Stimulus. So one of the things we recently did is implement some overflow AI answering systems, and um, there, it's working overall well. There are certain people that just don't want to communicate with an AI interface, and I get it. So we give an option to always, reach a live person, but it's really helped us inside our organization. What didn't work is AI telemarketing. We've seen that wasn't great. Um, and certainly as a recipient of way too many AI marketing calls myself, it's just one area that I think we will probably want to stay away from for a moment. Um, so it is interesting, and I think as companies we have to experiment a little bit and see what makes sense. And that's what we're doing at Stimulus is seeing where there's opportunities to use automation and AI technologies to improve the business. But there's certainly ways where it will cause more problems, and so we have to be careful about that.
Do you think AI is the number one thing businesses should be reflecting on and focusing on for the beginning of 2026, or cybersecurity?
I think it depends on where the business is. If your business is running well with your IT, with cybersecurity, and with compliance, then looking at AI and automation is your most lucrative change from a technology standpoint. If you're really struggling with technology, just getting the basics of it running, if you're a small business and you're still running on Gmail addresses or AOL addresses or something like that for your employees, then let's get some IT fundamentals working. Let's make sure that your cybersecurity is working well, that you're in compliance with your regulations, and then we could talk about AI. So it really depends on where you're at, because there is a certain level of AI preparedness that you have to have as an organization to make it work well. So, uh, as yeah, just make sure you're crawling, walking before you try to run with AI.
And is there anything that has surprised you over the past year? Is there anything that like went away that you never thought would, as far as technology goes,
Went away.
or kind
That
of
is a
became
good question.
redundant?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, some things you just don't miss, right?
Mhm.
I think I'm happy that I'm not tied down to the office, and I think most people are, that are business executives, just having that, and majority of the, we'll call them, for lack of a better term, again, white collar workers, be able to work anywhere and being as productive as you can. I'm constantly amazed at the ability that I have to do good work no matter where I am in the world. So I think we'll be filming our podcast episode from another location next week. So look out for that. But I don't miss being tied down to a single location. And that is, desktop computers, having to have that single place to do work, is probably the best change for organizations. Um, but there is a place for it. I mean, I last week, we had a team that went into the office, and we felt it was better to be person to person and work on a whiteboard, and draw things out with a dry erase marker rather than trying to use a software tool to do the same thing. Um, so there's time for brainstorming and collaboration, and some of that's better in person, whiteboarding it. And then, we took that information and did a lot of work with it afterwards. So, there's certainly times and places for different things. Um, Other things I don't miss, dial-up internet. AOL finally went offline last week, so don't miss dial-up internet. One of my first jobs, was at a dial-up internet service provider, and I don't miss the tone of a 2400 baud modem connecting. Um, so, it's-
No, don't miss those tones.
yeah, you have to be a certain age to even know what we're talking about, but yeah, it's definitely, there's things that, happy that they went away. Is there anything that you don't miss that's gone away?
um, yeah, I certainly don't miss some of just how long things used to take. When you think about like when you had to do certain things, it would take forever. It still takes sometimes a while to upload and download, but I mean, that's just our modern mindset. It used to take hours and hours. And that tone, that dial-up tone, when you're first getting on the AOL, or even earlier, when I had Prodigy. So I'm really dating
Mhm.
myself,
I have
but
Prodigy too.
and but that sound was like kind of an excitement because it was so
Yeah.
new, and it was like what you were able to start doing. But yeah, I mean, I think I like to work from home. I go into the office only occasionally, and some people have more of a reason to go in. I like the flexibility of that. Do you think that businesses should have that mind shift towards flexibility, if they're able, if that works for their company? I know there was like everybody was at home, and then there was kind of a push back to the office, but I mean, from my observations, employees kind of like some flexibility.
I think the flexibility makes sense depending on the position. So, if you're retail customer facing, like in person, you can't send your dentist home, or your dental hygienist. Yeah, I don't want to go to Sherry's house to get my teeth cleaned. I'm sorry. Or the dental hygienist to come over to my house. There's certain positions that we expect, those type of business to consumer relationships to maintain forever. But you see, a big change in customer sentiment, and big box stores are struggling, to maintain their viability, over the long term because there's just not as much need to go into a store and buy something anymore. So yeah, it's definitely a big shift. And I don't agree with companies that have this mindset that everybody should be in the office 100% of the time. I do think that there's a time and place, there's job functions for that. And I think a lot of great collaboration can happen when you're in person, but a lot of great collaboration can happen when you're virtual too. And I think it's just, that flexibility, the hybrid mindset is um, where businesses can get a lot of gains, especially hiring staff maybe that wouldn't necessarily be able to, and hiring and keeping staff that maybe not be able to be in the office full time. And so that's been an interesting change for us too. So yeah, flexibility I think is where we need to focus on and choosing the right place for the job to be done.
Yeah, definitely. And just anecdotally, even in retail, in fast food, you go in and order off a virtual menu, and you may not even interact hardly with the employee that's there.
Yeah.
And then, I went to a game, and they have a little store, kind of like those Amazon stores, where you walk in and walk out, and because you scanned your credit card, and there's never a line there because I think people are afraid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting the shift, and I think um, I haven't watched it yet. Somebody made a mention that they watched a movie that was made in the '70s, and it was portraying the future and what it would look like in 50 years or 70 years or something like that. Well, in the end of the um, 21st century, and their thought in the '70s of what life would look like, at the end of the 21st century is nowhere near of what we are today. It's just kind of interesting. I love watching like the 1960s version of Star Trek
Mhm.
because the the buttons and devices and all the things that they're using. It's like, wow, if that's the way we had to operate today, I think we'd be driving ourselves nuts. Technology is far better. We don't have warp drives, but we certainly have digital interfaces today that are significantly better than anybody I think could have imagined 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a video of, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's some British kids, and it's the 60s, and they're asking what they think the future is going to be like. And they're all worried about computers, and this is I think it was probably about 1968. But one of them says, "I don't think anybody will have any jobs because computers will be doing everything," which was so amazing to me that the kids were thinking about this back then.
Yeah, it is interesting. But we still find a way for humans to do good work.
Yes.
So, we have to be here at least for now. So I don't think we're not hiring an AI person to take over the podcast anytime
No.
soon. But
No.
um,
Because you wouldn't get these off tangent conversations that we get into.
maybe not. Maybe not. Probably not a lot of nostalgia around 1960s.
Yeah. Or
Or,
Star Trek from 1960.
yeah. Um, Yeah, we won't get into a debate about which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars. So that'll maybe save that for another time.
Yeah. Let us know if you want that episode.
Yeah, tell us if you want, because Sherry and I are both nerds.
Guess
Well,
which one
maybe
of
we'll
us.
save that for another episode and we can banter about
Take
it
some
for a minute.
guesses. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Nathan. Thanks for the look back, and we'll always be continuing to look forward.
All right, thanks, Sherry, and thanks everybody for joining us today.